Looking back, 1973 was quite the year. If you were a student at Guilford College, you could go across the street and for 25 cents play a new arcade game called Pong. 50 years ago, President Nixon, a Quaker, was inaugurated for a second term. At the time, nobody seemed too interested in some break-in that took place a few months earlier at a place most Americans had never heard of, Watergate. 2 days after Nixon's inauguration, his predecessor, Lyndon Johnson, suffered a heart attack and died. The Supreme Court affirmed in Roe v. Wade that it was a woman's right to have an abortion, a ruling many people thought would never be overturned. A peace agreement was reached between the U.S. and the North Vietnamese during a meeting in Paris. It was the beginning to the end of the Vietnam War, and all across the country, POWs were coming home. But for a lot of folks, especially folks like me who call ourselves Guilfordians, one of the biggest headlines from 1973 came out of Kansas City, Missouri. Everybody in the basketball world was stunned. Well, not everybody.
No, I coached Jensen when he was in Jerry Steele, when they were recruiting me. They came down to Wallace on a very, very, very rainy night.
I remember Coach came to the door in the projects. I lived in the projects, and he came to the door, and I remember him knocking on the door, and he was a little dude, and I didn't know him at first, So I was like, oh man, this guy's going to be coming out of this house real quick, because all the big schools came in, offered my mom everything.
Coach Steele at the time and Coach Jensen came to my residence to recruit me and talk with myself and my mother. And my mother was very impressed with them.
Coach Dunning was there scouting my buddy Robert Kent, who we'd been together, we knew each other and had been friends since kindergarten. So, and he came up, he was talking with Robert.
After one game, took me into the coach's office and asked me if I was coming to Guilford, and I said that's the only place I've applied to, and he asked me what number I'd like to have, and I told him 34 would be great, and that was it.
He was talking with Robert, and I walked by, and he said, if you would like to come to Guilford, we'll have a uniform for you.
When they were gone, my father said, this is the only coaches that have been in our home that said they'd do everything in their power to make sure after 4 years you'd have a scholarship, you'd have a degree from Guilford College. And everybody had been talking about how much you're going to play and you're going to start and all these things. And these people were honest. I believe they're honest people.
Let me tell you something. All the schools came after me, and I was like the #1 guy in New York at that time, coming out of school. And Coach Jack Jensen came and told my mom, he said, look, we can't offer you all the things that these big schools can offer you, like houses and money and all that. But he said, I'll tell you one thing, what we can do for your son, he said, we can make sure that we show him love and we'll give him an education. So I went out to the South. And the thing is, once I got out to the South, you know, I remember, you know, coming on the campus and meeting people, and it was a beautiful thing because I thought everything was like, I thought it was like in Roots, you know what I mean? So I wanted to make it back home. So when I got here, and I said to myself, when I got to Guilford College, I seen all the people and how everybody accepted me as who I was, and people like, you know, did nice things for me, and nobody never called me the N-word. You know, nobody ever said anything bad to me. I mean, everything was like really, I mean, it was like totally different from where my mindset was. And when I seen that, man, I knew it was a God, you know what I mean? Because this is how beautiful life is. You get to learn and experience things that you really never would experience. And I thank God all the time for giving me a chance to get out and see all this.
From the time I set foot on the campus at Guilford College as a freshman, I felt comfortable. And the reason I felt comfortable was because not only were the coaches a part of helping me get there, but it was people like Charlie Hendricks. It was people like Doug Gilmer. It was Margaret Marlette, one of my professors. They made you feel as if you were one of theirs, and they had a responsibility, and they took that very serious to make sure that you were able to develop those young minds and become the young leaders and adults that they were hoping and wishing for. And we're willing to work with you to make that happen.
When Robert and I were freshmen, we came in and we had both been following Guilford for 10 years or longer.
I've been going to Guilford games forever, and you know, the 68 team with Bob Kaufman as a senior was, I think they were seeded #1 in Kansas City in the national tournament, and then ML and Teddy went back to the national tournament as freshmen, I think. So when I came in as a freshman and they were seniors, there was always a sense that we were going to go back. And I had a feeling, even though I was not one of the main players, I was a freshman and got to play some, but not as much as the good guys. But every time we walked in the gym, I felt like we were going to win.
We played in the tournament in 1970 against Winston-Salem State, and they beat us. And you know, the students from Winston-Salem State knew I had been there for a week, so you know it was a bad situation for me. It wasn't good. Then we lost to. I was really mad. I was hot. Coach Steele at the time came in the locker room and put me aside and said, "I promise you, we'll never lose like this again."
And then the next year, we had picked up Lloyd and several other players, and I thought we had a good chance then, but you know, I was still new at college basketball, so I only had 1 year, but I thought that we had a chance at it.
When I first came in with Teddy and ML, and I seen how hard those guys like worked in practice, and I really wasn't a practice kind of guy, but I did it, and once I got to see how those guys worked, and Greg Jackson was, you know, he was always a leader because he was a guy I always looked up to in Brooklyn. So, you know, once I seen him doing everything, you know, I said to myself, well, I better jump on board, you know, and make this work.
We already knew that from the first day, that it was a good team. But I think Coach Jensen let us know from the beginning that this was our goal, was to go all the way. Because he knew we could.
If we didn't know about it when we first you know, when we committed or anything like that. After our first team meeting, ML waited for the coaches to leave the room, and he stood up and he said, listen, we've got the talent here to go to Kansas City. And this time when we go, there's not going to be any messing around. We're going to go out there to win the national championship.
Going to Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City, here I come. They got some pretty little women, I'm gonna get me one.
Teddy and I kept saying, this is our last shot at it, bro. We got to get this done.
Street and Vine. Well, standing on the corner.
There's no better leaders than ML Carr, Greg Jackson, Teddy East. If him and I could ever get along.
Well, I might take a train.
Sucker told me he loved me one day, and I like fell out. Every time he calls now, the last thing he says, I love you, Bubba.
That was such a special year and a special group of people. We all just got along. It was a unique group. Everybody was everybody else's best friend.
Coming back to Greensboro after we won, it was awesome. There was toilet paper everywhere, and everybody's playing that song, Kansas City, Here I Come, or something like that.
And we pulled it off. And we knew how special that was. And the type of players that was on that team, they were very caring, they were committed, they worked hard. Everyone's role was respected. And because of that, we stayed very close.
The reason why we stayed this close together is because I know we all went our own ways, you know, in life. And the thing about it, you know, when someone shows you love, you know, no matter how you are, it was a family. When I left my family, it was a family that I know I could be a butthole sometime, but these guys still stuck with me and stuck by my side.
To me, when I think back about it, it's just incredible that a college with, at that time, under 1,000 students could achieve something like that.
I wear this ring every day. I take it off when I go to bed. I put it on, it's the first thing I put on in the morning when I get up. This reminds me of a lot of great times that I had, not only on the basketball team, but just at Guilford College in general.
Well, I might take a train, take a plane. If I have to walk, I'm going just the same. Going to Kansas City. Got some pretty little women, and I'm gonna get a bottle of Kansas City wine. Well, I might take a train, take a plane. If I have to walk, I'm going just the same. Going to Kansas City, Kansas City, here I come. They got some pretty little women, I'm gonna get me one. Take a train, take a plane. If I have to walk, I'm going